All right. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our November ICMS mentoring networking session. It's our last one of the year, and actually, it's the last time I'm going to do this. As I'm sad to say, we've done this for 3 years. It's been an absolute pleasure and a lot of fun. But someone decided to elect me chair of the ICMS next year, so I have to go do that job, and I'm going to pass this off to Mike Reed to handle. And we'll talk a little bit about that near the end of this. And we're very fortunate to have Brian Pillar join us from Wayne Taylor Racing. I will give him a much more detailed introduction in a second, but we are well, actually, yeah, less than a month away from our
Yep.
annual Congress. So I wanted to turn this over to Tom real quick to sort of give the last shout out. Hopefully, not inviting you to book your hotel rooms because I think the hotels are all sold out, Tom. So the floor is yours.
Oh, we have till Friday. So, Brian, I'm here in Indianapolis with the team, so good to see you. You
Oh,
actually have students from all over the country with you as well as the world. Ur is over in Germany right now. So he's actually originally from Turkey, but he's finishing up his studies over in Germany. So you have people from all over the world with you. Rob Seals up in Edmonton. So great crowd for you today. The ICMS Annual Congress, December 10, 11, here in Indianapolis during the PRI show. We have the reception on the 9th. Posters, posters, posters. Sophie, I look forward to seeing you again. Sophie's already signed up to do another poster different from last year's. For the students who have already signed up to come and attend the event with us, I think you're going to love it. You're going to make a lot of great contacts. You're going to learn a few things, and I think you'll truly enjoy the experience. If you haven't signed up, registration for our event closes on Wednesday, December 3rd. I will tell you that PRI Housing closes this Friday, and then you're on your own for housing. I have been able to help some of the other students who are coming, maybe who didn't want to stay downtown. We found a couple options for them outside, so I can still help with that. For those that are coming and doing a poster, I'll be at the convention center Monday and Tuesday by about 7:30 each morning, but you guys don't have to be there then. I think if you can come Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., even a little before that, I'll be there by 6. If you want to come around 7 a.m. Wednesday, we can get your poster put up and anything else you have to put on your table, and we'll be ready to go before anybody shows up. So again, if you are doing a poster, you can come over Tuesday afternoon and set it up, or come Wednesday morning. That will not be a problem. Again, looking forward to having another round of great poster presentations this year. As we've shared in the past couple months, exciting news that at the end of day one, everybody in attendance of the ICMS Annual Congress will actually have a ballot. They're going to vote on the top three that they like that day. Obviously, presentation, content, they're going to be looking at that, how you present. Those top three vote getters will get a phone call from me that night to notify you that you've been selected. And on the second day, day two in the afternoon, you will actually have the opportunity to actually do a full presentation to the entire to the group. We'll do again 3 students in the afternoon. So for those that are doing poster presentations, so you are prepared for hopefully getting selected, bring a full presentation on a thumb drive, so I can give that to the production company. We can just plug it in and you'll be ready to go. If you have any questions on that, here in the next 28 days, you're going to get a lot of emails from me talking about the poster presentations, the opportunity to present, what I need you to bring. If you have questions, what do I wear? What should I bring? What should I expect? Feel free to call me. I'm going to include my cell phone number in there. And then for those that are coming, whether you're presenting a poster or not, I would like some help. We're changing the room setup. David is barely aware of this. I did kind of give him a heads up. I'm changing the room setup. I like having something different every year and completely changing the way the room's set up, vertical instead of horizontal, etc. I'm going to need a couple mic runners because Dr. D. Trefen looks like just a wild hyena running around the room with a microphone. I'd rather have 2 to 3 students help me with wireless so he can stand still and focus on talking to the presenters. So I'll need a couple mic runners each day, all day, so we can swap out every other one. And then we're going to do lunch a little different this year. We had about 15 to 20 people from the whoever they were at the convention center decided to have lunch on us last year and walk through the buffet line. So I am going to actually have buffet meal tickets for everybody. I'll need a volunteer to kind of take those each day during our annual Congress. Again, look forward to having you join us. I'll put my email in the chat box for anybody that hasn't signed up. If you have questions, would love to talk to you about the event. It's a phenomenal event. It's great for students. David, let's get Brian talking.
Cool. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. Yeah, really excited that we've all got our meeting together with Brian. I've been very fortunate to have known Brian for, I think, going on 8 or 9 years. It might be longer than that. You know, Brian is very talented, world-renowned race engineer, strategist, technical director at Wayne Taylor Racing, and I thought I'd kind of tell you the introduction that I got to Brian way back in 2017, I think. I had a friend, colleague, and collaborator who was working with Wayne Taylor Racing and through Brian to do human performance physiology, driver science, and motorsports. And I was fortunate enough to be included. And so my first exposure to this was the 24 Hours of Daytona. So I met Brian. I also learned that the 24 Hours of Daytona is actually the 36 Hours of Daytona
Yeah.
because that's how long you're awake. We collected some data. The team was amazing. It was a wonderful experience. I sort of kept in contact with everybody over the years. During COVID, I did a research study where I flew drivers to my lab. So let's think about that, having drivers fly to your lab during COVID, which is interesting. Two of them were Jordan and Ricky Taylor, who drive for Wayne Taylor Racing and work with Brian. And I was sharing some of the ideas I had on what I wanted to do. And both drivers said, we got to loop Brian into this because even though he's an engineer, he's actually very much into the human performance, human physiology, driver science side of it, which is extremely rare and very much appreciated. And I still remember what Brian said to me. He said, you're welcome to try whatever
Anderson
you
should be
want.
tapping
I'll
in to
give you a race
reprocess
car,
himself with flight
um, and
1168.
you can figure out what you want to do, which to a physiologist was an open invitation to have a whole lot of fun. And what happened was multiple years of, I guess, fun data collection, work, great friendships, great interactions. And we just completed a year, or I completed a year with Wayne Taylor Racing, going to the races, collecting data. So there's a book coming out of it. Do not ask me how far along I am in that. The answer will just upset me. But we got some really cool papers. And so I'm very excited for Brian to come talk to us about where he is, how he got to where he is, what he does. It's an amazing thing to have someone into the human side of things that Brian is. That's a very rare thing. That's very appreciated. I also know that as we heard, Brian is at the airport right now because he's taking time out of his day to, I think, between the Daytona test and going back home. So I'm hoping he's going to tell us that the car is very, very fast. But with that, I'm done talking and I'm turning over to Brian. So, Brian, thank you so much for joining us and being here. The floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. F. Yeah, I'm actually heading to Daytona to go testing. And honestly, this is the most stressful time in my life because we've put in all this work and all everybody wants to know is, are we going to be fast? And really, we have no idea until we start turning these first laps. So questions like that will go on for the next day and a half, and I'll just be stressed out until we turn some laps finally. But let me clarify, I am not world renowned by any stretch of the imagination. And honestly, that's probably a bit what I'll talk about is um, I've kind of my career in motorsports as a race engineer. There are famous race engineers and they talk on the radio and they're known. I just enjoy engineering and honestly have in my entire career, I've always kind of taken a bit of a backseat or a behind the curtain mindset. I built kind of my career on partnerships, relationships with, really smart people, smarter than me. And, that extended to some of this human science stuff with Dr. F. Um, but yeah, it's just kind of a different, there are people that get in motorsports for the glory and so forth. And there's some people that get in for the challenge. And I'm kind of on that side. Sadly, I don't even watch car racing. I don't watch IndyCar, Formula One, or anything like that. I love the engineering challenge of car racing and kind of, I do have a list of things to talk through. I'll kind of get into that. Um, that said, my relationship with Dr. Ferguson started long before I met him. I believe it was 2013 and a Daytona 24-hour race. We were sponsored by Konica Minolta, and I was invited to a breakfast, a Saturday morning breakfast before the race. And we're in some fancy place, and all these executives are there, and it turns out they're all doctors. Konica had just invested in some medical technology and invited these doctors to the race kind of as a perk. So we talked about the cars and the driver spoke and, the same questions happen, how fast does it go? How much horsepower? Blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, the doctor started asking questions about the drivers, what the drivers go through, what's involved in, a driver achieving these things in, 3 hour, 4 hour stints, how do we monitor the drivers? How do we help the drivers? And sadly, I sat up there and said, we don't. I don't know. Good question. Um, Sounded cute. Then we got to business and did a 24-hour race. That timing was almost perfect because actually in that 24-hour race, which I love these events because it's not just about going fast, it's about survival more than anything else or being in the right place at the right time. So during this event, we actually had a very fast race car and the exhaust broke. And we were, oh man, we were probably 18, 20 hours into this race, and we were in second place, and we had the ability to win. And just to be clear, the 24 hours like our Super Bowl or our Stanley Cup for the Edmonton guy. Um, so we had this exhaust leak, and we were aware that the exhaust was getting into the cockpit with the drivers. And, you know, drivers are a special breed where uh, they'll risk their lives for eternal glory. They're not behind the curtains thing. And we had a driver named Max Angelelli with us at that point, and he'd been around for a long time. He was known as Max the Axe. I had a very strong relationship with him, and I went and had a conversation with him behind the timing stand. I'm like, "How bad do you want this? I would not ask this of anybody else other than you, because I know you'll give everything and you'll do it because you want these things so bad." And he got in this car, and I apologize, I forget how long he drove, but he was being poisoned for it was probably 2.5 hours in the car while racing. Max's heart rate would be over 200 beats per minute, and Max wasn't young. He was in his early 40s at that time, which is kind of old for race car drivers. And so we he pushed and we raced and we fought, and we took the checker in second place. And when he took the checker, the car just slowed down, and it rolled to a stop in turn one, which is very abnormal. And I'm on the radio with him, and he's not communicating to me at all. And basically, Max somehow survived literally until the checker flag. And Dr. F will clarify what went down there probably, but I can only see like the adrenaline. It was over. He achieved that goal, and that was it. And he was taken to the hospital. I don't remember the details, but he was in some chamber for 3 days. Honestly, our car was impounded as like Max could have died, and the police impounded our race car in a garage afterwards. It was a massive deal. And the timing of those two things in the same weekend made me go, hold on a second. I think we need to take care of business here. We have, hundreds of sensors of data on the race car, and we monitor it all. Why are we not doing the same for the drivers? And so shortly after in that season, I don't know anything about humans. I skipped biology because I was too interested in physics and other class. So I don't know anything at all. And I said, we need to surround ourselves with experts again. And it was Dr. Ed from Ohio State University.
Ohio Northern, I think, was at the
Ohio,
time.
Ohio Northern. Yeah. So, and I forget how I even contacted, it's probably the internet somehow. We reached out to him and I said, this is what I want to do. Help me do this. And he's, a bundle of energy. And we found a company in Australia that had some instrumentation so we could kind of record driver heart rate monitor. We had carbon monitoring in the car. We found a partner down in Florida that we're familiar with now called Rini Technologies that was doing driver cooling. There was some more things I can't remember now, but we basically went all in and said, let's learn some stuff. And the driver science was coined at that point in time. And it kind of ran on the side and it was interesting. But really, when Dr. F kind of joined the program, it took over. What can we do with it? Rather than just gathering information and keeping the driver safe, which was the goal in 2014, it kind of turned into we consider these guys as driver athletes. And to be clear, in 2013, there was very gifted drivers that were not athletes. Montoya is a very famous race car driver that does things incredibly. He is not in shape at all, but he could pull it off. And, over that time, we watched it evolve from 2014 to now, where, these drivers getting in out of the cars, they are in incredible shape and they're doing triathlons and they're eating properly, they're doing all these things to perform their best. We're putting so much effort and millions of dollars into the race car. It's really interesting that it's evolved for the drivers, and we see it with our drivers too. There's some very stressful events like Sebring is a race. It's a 12-hour race we do, and it's basically the bumpiest track in the world, and it starts out incredibly hot, and our drivers manage that very well, where we witness other drivers getting out of the car during a pit stop and they fall over the wall and they lay on the ground and they're like, dump water on me and give me an ice bucket. And my guys, step over the wall, come sit on the couch and chat with us. So it's been pretty incredible what it's gotten to at this point in time. But yeah, that's where it all started, with kind of a crazy weekend of two things that came together. And Dr. F's given me a lot of credit for caring about the human side of it. To me, it was just another way to go faster. And honestly, the relationship I have with these drivers, I want drivers to be as safe as they can be. So, that said, where did this all begin? In 2000 and 1997, I think is when I started university. I'm Canadian, Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, and I got involved in the Formula SAE program. It's a very common thing. Most universities will have an effort like that. It's a challenge where students spend a year designing a car, building it, hopefully testing it, and then they all meet. I think it's in Michigan somewhere, and it's kind of like an autocross, like a parking lot style race, and you're judged on budget, how well you do, how well you solve problems. Back in my time in 2001, simply to finish this event, it was called the endurance event. That probably lasted 30 minutes. It was like a monumental achievement, where because these cars we built would just fall apart somehow, or something you hadn't thought of would go wrong. And I became very addicted I wasn't into cars or race cars, but I became addicted to this problem of building this race car. And my program was actually the first of our university to ever survive the race, to ever actually finish the race. And bluntly, I got hooked on the challenge. It was just, this is my dream. And I actually moved to Montreal and worked as a mechanic and got involved in some touring car teams over there, and kind of started the challenge of what I like to say is problem solving. So I'm a mechanical engineer. Any kind of engineer can get into motorsports, but when I interview people, it's all about, what did you learn in school? Did you learn how to solve problems? Give me examples of how you solve problems. I don't even care if the problem solution didn't go well and it was a disaster. Just tell me how you worked, because honestly, that's half of our life here, is it goes well and it goes poorly. Um, so yeah, I'm addicted to problem solving. Um, so I started in touring cars. So right now we'll call them in the premier class of sports cars. We started in kind of entry level touring cars, and what was kind of special there that I learned is that problem solving was highly valuable because it was low budget. We would get a basically a Honda Civic off the factory floor, and you had to turn it into a race car, and that was a problem on its own. And the rules were so simple then; they let you do whatever you want. So creativity was king, and I really enjoyed that environment. Um, However, in that time with touring cars, so entry level, I learned the most important lesson that I kind of pushed to a lot of motorsports engineers is it's all about the driver. Which you can see why I'm interested in driver science. At some point, we could do simulation racing, but these drivers are all unique in what they do, what makes them tick, how we get the most out of them. And in this touring car era, with these kind of weird Civics and Acuras, I learned the most important part was kind of communication with the drivers. So essentially, I became a driver whisperer. It was understanding what they were asking and then turning into something that worked with the race car. So applying the engineering to their speak, and those relationships became important. There was some young drivers I worked with. Eric Kern was the driver I started with, and he was nobody. He sold his Volvo dealership to go racing and joined me. And 2 years later, we almost won a championship. And 5 years later, he was racing prototypes, and he won a championship, a couple, I think, championships and prototypes. And he was an incredibly hard worker. We took a lot of brave risks with car setup and stuff like that. And we had good communication with one another. He knew how to tell me what he wanted, and I knew how to make it happen. It was just kind of a wonderful example. That said, I have a kind of a note here that I'm the guy behind the curtains, behind the scenes, and everybody talks about trophies and so forth. I collect driver helmets. So the my what I'll take away with me when my career is over is this wall full of helmets of these relationships I've had, and very special relationships kind of thing. We've got along well, we've communicated, we've had successes, we've had failures together, and I look at those down in the basement. That's kind of what makes it worthwhile for me in the end. A little less, I do enjoy winning Rolexes and trophies for sure, but ultimately when it's all said and done, it's the wall of helmets that's really special to me. Um, so after touring cars, I was very fortunate, got to Wayne Taylor Racing, the program we're on right now. Um, and once again, I worked for another engineer at that time. I wanted to learn. Really enjoyed surrounding myself by smart people in the beginning. Well, still, sorry. Um, and when I got to Wayne Taylor Racing, it was actually challenging because the engineer I worked for, we weren't aligned, and I didn't really feel like he was appropriately solving problems. And we were with a brand new partner called Delara, and this engineer, honestly, he kept a lot of secrets. And I witnessed his driver relationship wasn't very good. A very famous driver named Pedro Lamy was racing with us, and he was getting frustrated. He's like, I've never dealt with an engineer like this before. And Pedro Lamy had been in Formula One and everything. Fortunately, that race engineer decided to move to a different program, and the team owner Wayne, gave me the opportunity. I may be in the curtains, but I certainly have a lot of opinions, and I might have been voicing those for years. And Wayne basically said, "All right, you have a lot of ideas. Let's see what you can do." And I relied again on relationships. So when I took over the program in 2011, I believe it was. I went back to the partners that had walked away from us because they were frustrated. There's an engineer named Luca Berganti, and he was from Delara. And I called him up. I'm like, let's do this together. You left a year ago because you were so frustrated. I'm like, you and me, let's take it on. And personally, me and Luca had a relationship for the next decade, and he's basically number two or number three at Delara worldwide now. And he was just another young engineer like me and took on the challenge. I called partners I had at Penske Shocks, partners at Brembo, and I brought all this support structure around me to take on this new challenge. And in that time, 11, 12, 13, we went from winning one race a year if we were lucky to winning three, four, five, championship kind of thing. And so it was definitely me. The problem was how do we make this work? And a bunch of that solution was relying kind of on experts and leveraging kind of their knowledge base. So uh, ultimately, we grew to two cars. It has proven to be a bigger problem than I know how to solve yet. And again, I'm really trying to pull in different people, pull in different things to help us figure this out. Currently doing the same thing, interviewing young engineers, experienced engineers, trying to draw on a lot of different experience to kind of run the two-car program. Um, and maybe Dr. App, do I just keep steaming along here, or do I pause for Q&A and head to the next section, or how do
It
I
is,
roll this?
it is your show. So if you want to pause for a second and get some questions, we can pause for
Yeah,
that. If you want to go on to the next thing, we can do that. What would you prefer?
I I'm kind of the way I normally interact. I raise my hand and ask questions, otherwise I'll forget about them or lose context later when I'm meeting people. So I'm good with that, but I'll roll anyway.
Well, if you want, we can pause and get some questions. We have questions for Brian. Maybe we'll take a second and see what we got, and then we'll let Brian continue. So we'll pause for a second. I know several people are going to ask you questions, Brian. So we'll see if they chime in.
Brian, real quick, in terms of engineers, there's a lot of great engineering schools. I think
Yeah.
between Canada, U.S., and even over in the U.K., where we see those engineers from all over those countries. involved in IMSA and IndyCar, even NASCAR, right? I mean, we're seeing some of
Yep.
that filtration over to there. What schools have you seen has done a nice job maybe preparing a student for that career pathway into motorsports engineering?
Yeah, so there's some very specific motorsport schools. Purdue does a motorsport program. So when I start hunting, I'll usually start, it depends on the role, to be honest. If I'm hiring a performance engineer or a young person we look to bring the simulation or something, I'll look to those specific schools. So Purdue in the States is a very big one, used to be IUPUI. Cranfield, Oxford Brookes are the two over in Europe right now. I believe there's a French school called ETAS. I always mess that up. Um, However, I'm a little different than most, and honestly, I don't really care what school people came from if I don't need them for a specific role. I
Okay.
really, in interviews, I'm very specific, asking about problem solving skills. And actually, some young engineers came to me that I want to go into racing. I've gone to university. What other things can I do? And honestly, on my end, I'm like, go learn how to be an engineer. Like, don't go, you're there. What a wonderful opportunity to go learn the things you like. Is it physics? Is it math? Is it who knows what? Go solve the problems, go be an engineer. At some point, you don't need to know the details. I can teach you that when you graduate. So I really like people that have embraced their school. I ask lots of questions about how school went, what types of things you want. Like when we're hiring kids fresh out of school, like that was your job to be a student. Did you embrace it? And what did you take from it? Honestly, when we bring people on board at our team, we've got a Super Trofeo, so an entry level series, then a GTD, and then a prototype. So young students, we can kind of put them in different places and kind of groom them for our application ourselves. We just want, good, strong problem solvers. We really like independent workers too, kind of able to work autonomously. Um, yeah, those three schools are good for motorsports, but sometimes I correct things that they've learned there that don't apply to our world. So I don't get too wound up in exactly which school people come from.
Awesome. Thank you. I saw Cecilia's hand, and then we'll go to Dr. Hill.
Hi, thank you so much for your time. And I'm actually in Daytona Beach right now, so that's really cool.
Oh,
But
nice.
I was wondering what your favorite problem you've ever solved is.
Oh man. Um, so this good question. I think my favorite thing, which I was going to talk about later, but we can get into it. My favorite thing is actually race strategy. Uh, Again, I don't necessarily love race cars. I like problem solving. So race strategy is the only thing they will never take away from me. It's this magical thing called like it's very time sensitive to make these decisions. And then within IMSA racing, which we do, the engineer has huge roles in success. So I can, short filling the car with energy, tire choices, stuff like that. So I'd be trouble to figure out my number one problem, but I can give you a recent one is at Indianapolis, which I'm super proud of, and I've just been bragging about it a lot lately. At Indianapolis, it's a 6 hour race, and unfortunately, we were down a lap, meaning the entire field, or the leader at least, and some cars up front had passed us. So for 4 hours to go, we're down a lap, and it wasn't going well, and we were almost down 2 laps, which basically means you're out of the race. That's pretty insurmountable. Um, and we came up with some really creative things I'd never done in my 15 years of strategy to keep that car only down 1 lap, which sounds kind of crazy. It was some really unique fuel gambles and tires, and actually that relationship with the driver. I sent him out of pit lane, and he yelled at me. He's like, "I wish you told me what you're doing," and I'm like, "Just just do what I'm asking. Let me hang on." So with an hour to go, we survived and we're only a lap down and a yellow flag came out, which is what we're hoping for. And now we go back on the lead lap. So we're dead last with 1 hour to go. And everybody's energy saving to make it to the end. So they're saving fuel so they don't have to stop one more time. And we can see the math and we know that it's possible. So there's no point in doing what everybody else is doing because I'm just going to finish behind them. I'm certainly not going to win. So we took a gamble and said, what if there was 2 laps of yellow? Actually, we said, what if there's 3 laps of yellow that comes at the end? What can we do? So we started to race like that, and we pushed very hard attacking cars that were saving energy, so they were easy to pass. And then when we'd get gaps, it was kind of like a choreographed dance with me and the driver. Do this job, now save this energy. Now do this job, now save this energy. And we worked our way all the way up to P2 doing this. And a yellow came out with like 10 minutes to go, right at the perfect time. And the yellow was 2 laps. And we finished second. And we finished second with we call it energy. It's 4 megajoules in the tank. So 4 units of fuel left. 4 out of 911. So we basically executed it perfectly. If it was another half a lap, we would have run out of energy and finished dead last. And so it started out with an insurmountable problem. And we got really creative and we all played a role, the driver, myself, my fuel strategist. So kind of, yeah, that's kind of a super relevant one that's definitely in my history books of favorite moments.
Awesome. Thank you. I was fortunate enough to be on the radio at Indianapolis when that all came together and that yellow came out. And the reaction from the team is one of my favorite memories of all time in racing. Of, it was made me think of the movie Top Gun Maverick. We need two miracles, and they
Yeah.
both hit at the same time, which was great. Dr. Hill.
Hey Brian, good to see you again. Thanks
Hi.
for being here. My question is kind of related to what you were talking about earlier with relationships and kind of the unique nature of your role on the team. Like you obviously are kind of a central point to a lot of people between engineering and the crew members, but also the drivers. And I'm just wondering how you go about thinking about like learning how to understand your drivers. Like if you've been around drivers long enough, they're all kind of unique. Each one is kind of unique in its own way, and how you go about thinking about the ways you'll communicate with them, the way like the example you just gave is a perfect one. Like how do you communicate with them over the radio, but also off the track as well, so that you can hopefully get the best performance out of them when those situations arise.
Yeah. And let me lead off with when I find time, you and I need to talk about a lot of things. Um,
I'll shoot you an email later.
yeah, it's I think I am sitting on one. Some good stories with that are so I kind of got that craft early on with young drivers that were developing themselves. So I think I was fortunate. We rank drivers platinum, gold, silver, bronze. So I started working with silver drivers. So they knew they had to improve too. So there was a lot of incentive to work together with me. And we kind of just learned like it's just certain verbiage, lots of visuals. That's kind of the key. And that was kind of one of my notes here that I like to do. Very visual based stuff on communication. So if I look at data, it's just a bunch of squiggly lines and an engineer might read it immediately. So we find different ways to present it to the drivers to really kind of pitch them on ideas. I need them to kind of buy in. I need them to understand enough that they have a belief this is going to work. So it's very visual. Honestly, in the engineering offices with drivers, you see them using their hands a lot. Like they are definitely communicating to us with these things because I'm looking at a steering wheel trace. I know what's going on. They're using their hands, and we're trying to link those things together. Um, so very, very visual based things are kind of where that foundation comes from. And then it's just time together. Like every driver is different. You're spot on, and kind of learning how to communicate with them. I think it's easy for me. It's a little challenging now. There's a lot more drivers. We could have a field of 8 in our cars, but it was kind of one-on-one or one-on-two. You kind of really understood what each other wanted. We could kind of knew when silence was appropriate, even when other people didn't think it was. There's some silly stories recently. Philippe, who you've worked with a little bit, he's a unique character, and he calls me honey a lot, which is kind of this ongoing thing for a while. And actually, I think it was during Petit, yeah, the last race, um, he's very stubborn and he feels that he was okay and the car was working okay and he was happy. And I felt it could do better. And he was challenging me with things that he wanted it to do. And once again, the driver often, that communication, the drivers usually like to tell you what the car is doing which is where I draw a line. I'm like, don't tell me what it's doing. Tell me what you want it to do. They'll use words like the car is too stiff, the car is too this, the car is not enough that. I don't care. That's my job. Tell me, I want the car to rotate better mid-corner. I want the car to be more stable under braking. So Philippe is one that I struggle with a lot. Um, and at the, oh man, he's going to see this too, probably. Uh,
I'll
at the
censor
la
it, don't worry.
Yeah, it's all good. So at the last race, we were in an energy save mode, and there was a car up ahead. It was Scott Dixon, and Philippe asked, can I go hunt this car down? And at some point, we were kind of in a mediocre strategy, and I'm like, okay, you go get him. So he went and attacked that car, and while he was doing it, I got on the radio and I'm like, hey, honey. I did you a favor and let you go attack that car. How about you do me a favor and put that rear roll bar in position 5? And he giggled on the radio. We did some comms and I watched the bar over telemetry go to position 5. And, I think it was 3 or 4 laps later, I asked, be like, you're good. You could put it back wherever you want it. It's okay. Thanks for appeasing me. And he came on the radio, probably pretty sheepishly, and was like, nope, I like it. Thank you. So, you know, that's the way I would communicate to Philippe, where other drivers, sadly, like Ricky and Jordan, hey, Rick, put the bar in P5. It goes there immediately. So, just you're kind of learning that person and how to kind of work together.
Cool. Awesome. Fantastic. Other questions? And if not, Brian, if you have more you want to share, keep
Yeah,
rolling on. It's your
yeah,
process.
yeah. If I don't see hands, I can keep going. So I think,
Go for it.
yeah, so kind of talking about what makes motorsports engineering. So I talked about engineering is cool because it's problem solving. Motorsports engineering is special on its own. I think the biggest sell is there's no extension to deadlines. That green flag is going to fly no matter what. You could be behind, and bluntly, we're heading to Daytona and we're very behind. The green flag flies no matter what. And then when the race starts, usually, there's been some exceptions. The checker flag's going to fly no matter what at any given time, too. So I really love those time crunches as well, which makes it special. I know in industry, and I have a lot of friends in industry, there's extensions. The business is making money. So if you need some more time to make it correct or make it safe or make it something else, it exists. Where for us, you just have to get it done in that time. And sometimes it really encourages creativity or just I'm not sure the right words, but just kind of the get it done mentality and we'll clean it up later type of thing. So I really enjoy that environment. You get done a lot of stuff very quickly. Honestly, I hear a lot of race engineers that go to industry and they're like, I am so bored. They've given me 2 months to do something I normally would do in 4 days, kind of thing. So, I really enjoy that kind of high intensity environment with problem solving. I like as well in motorsports. So we have seasons. So we call it the pre-season which we are in right now. It's a new car. We're trying to learn about it. Not on the racetrack yet, but in simulation or with data. Then we head to the racetrack. We get to play with this new toy we've just built. So we're going to make adjustments. Does it make sense with everything we've done ahead of time? And then we get back and we basically turn back into problem solving mode. Things didn't make sense, or things failed, or things broke. So it's kind of three very different engineering roles, which I like. You're not doing the same job at all times. So, pre-season, race, post-race, and then post-season, they're kind of all different challenges for us to take on. Um, the next big one, and I pinged Dr. F on this one too, is it's a very high stress environment. It's black and white. I was at Talladega Nights, second is the first loser.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's pretty much true in the world we live in. It's all about winning. At this point, when we've gotten here, I think with our program, we started out, you were happy to have podiums, but now we're expected to win. And so it's pretty high stress. And a lot of time, success is not, in the hands of one individual. So it's a big relationship side of things. I've talked to Dr. F about how I feel stress keeps my edge in this. And at some point, people are like, you need to take some medication or do yoga or some type of things to calm down. Maybe it's a weird thing in my mind, but I feel that that stress keeps me pushing really hard, keeps me working hard, keeps me doing all the things I really like. And I'm honestly a little stressed. If I wasn't stressed like this, I wouldn't enjoy it as much. So as I said to Dr. F, there's definitely some things I need to unpack there at some point in time. Uh, and as well, kind of like the mental toughness side of things, we see a lot of engineers that come on this program in that stressful environment and they thrive. And some people, this just isn't necessarily the right place for you. Even if all the challenges are unique, it's a lot of pressure put on everybody to not let yourself down, not let your peers down, and so forth. And then clearly success, we don't look for pats on the back. It's trophies, well, trophies and helmets, I guess. But it's a pretty clear you've done your job well. It's pretty black and white, which I really enjoy. Um, the other one is which I like is IMSA racing. So that's the style of racing we do. Obviously in Formula One, IndyCar, a long race would be a 3 hour event. For us, a 3 hour event, I don't even bother sitting in the chair. I'm pretty much standing the entire time. I'm probably so hyped on adrenaline, it's all good. Um, but Daytona, like Dr. App said, it's not a 36-hour race. But by the time we've packed up the trailer and everything, we're a good solid almost 2 days of being awake. So before that event, sadly, I will often be up very late at night, just trying to do everything humanly possible before the race starts so I can be calm. I feel it's kind of a unique place I put myself in. I work myself to a point where I can't have done anything more. And at the start of the race, where a lot of people are kind of on edge, I'm probably my calmest because there's nothing else I could have done. Let's see what happens. So when we enter the 24-hour race, I've probably been up till 2 a.m. already and woken up at 7 a.m. and then went to the racetrack to get ready for this event. Um, and I think that's a challenge. That's more stuff that Dr. F and I need to work on at some point. It's how you stay engaged. Obviously, if you're successful and on a lead lap or fighting for it, again, maybe it's an adrenaline thing. I don't have those answers, but I know that's kind of how we function. When you fall out of it, it does become more challenging. However, I've found I've been able to embrace a lot of that by not stopping working. So in that Indianapolis example, we're almost 2 laps down. Honestly, I could tell the tone of the timing stand and everybody had given up. And I just keep churning with my brain. And again, I love that challenge so much. You just keep working. And when we get young engineers in on race strategy, um, every lap, it seems simple. Just check the box. We're on the strategy. Every lap, I'm thinking, what if? What if a yellow came out in 3 minutes? What if a yellow came out in 10? Oh, well, that one's really cool. What if I short filled that yellow in 10 and took 2 tires? Oh man, then I could stop at the end of the race, one less. That's worth an extra 30 seconds. And that's how my crazy brain works during these events. So I really enjoy the endurance side of things because I play such a big role and honestly, it keeps me pretty heavily engaged. Hey, Tom, go ahead.
So Brian,
I think Tom's still there.
Yeah.
We'll give him a second to bounce back here. So maybe while we wait for Tom's internet to catch up, any other questions for Brian as we're kind of in a pause moment here? I'm sorry. Mira has a question. Her mic has gone out, so I will read the question for Mira here. So Mira says, her mic is gone out, but the question, I've been reading more about how driver mechanics influence cockpit design. Have you worked on anything that ties driver biomechanics into the car setup, like how the body reacts to the seat or harness forces? And I might add a little tag on there that you have two very tall drivers and two very short. They'd be mad if I said short.
Yeah.
Less tall drive, shorter
Shorter. Yeah.
drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and probably Dr. F is going to do a better job than me. So let's say uh, my involvement in motorsports hasn't really been part of car design before. I've taken the approach in my career to be kind of the race team. So we kind of make work with whatever we're provided. So our partner has been Delara for the last 20 years or so. Um, and they're involved with that. However, we do play a bit of a role kind of in some of the beginning work. So actually at Daytona, what we're getting involved with, this is kind of good timing with the questions, is actually the seat is just a big open piece of carbon fiber, rectangle, and we fill it with foam to position the driver and provide them safety, if not the support they need when they're racing the car kind of at speed. It's a very hot topic, and just for perspective, this weekend we'll spend $50,000 just to make seats for these drivers. Right now, what's actually going on is a bit of a safety topic where it's positioning of the head for aft in the car, because right now they don't have any padding behind their head. So in a single seater car like IndyCar, Formula One, there's only one driver driving it. So they make sure the seat's perfect, his head's in the right place, they're safe, he has support. For us, because they're sharing, our drivers' heads aren't necessarily in the right place and they're having to hold their heads up. That's become a hot topic lately for the drivers. I like to say, why don't you just make your necks bigger? But I guess it doesn't exactly work that way forward and backwards. So we're actually working on that right now to get the head in the correct fore-aft positioning, both for legality and for driver support. So then the other pieces that come with that are we can adjust where the pedals are. We actually so moving it forward and back first and foremost so they can reach. We spent some time looking at, and very non-scientifically, I apologize, kind of the driver's foot position with respect to the pedal and where they make force in, I'm going to use wrong words, but the angle of their ankle to their shin, and kind of the height of the pedal pad. So we work with drivers a bunch on that pedal placement. So we fix the head first, which puts their torso in the right place, and then we kind of move the pedals. And then the steering wheel also moves up and down, forward and back. Unlike a road car, it's not adjustable. We choose one location for everybody to share. So when we move the driver rearward in the car for that head positioning, the steering wheel should come backwards. However, our tall drivers have tall arms, and we move the steering wheel back, suddenly their elbows start smashing into things in the cockpit. So it's a bit of a juggling exercise we're about to go through tomorrow. Ultimately, the cockpit has been designed by Dallara. They've given this open carbon seat. They've given us an adjustable steering wheel and pedals, and they say, good luck, the rest is kind of up to you. Did I answer that well? There was biomechanics in there. It made it sound very intense.
I think Mira's going to give you the thumbs up here, I think. Yes.
Okay,
Fantastic.
cool.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Other questions for Brian, or Brian, would you like to carry on? This has been, I'm just saying, I'm enjoying. This has been one of my favorite ones so far. This has been fantastic. And I
Ah,
know the
cool.
backstory to a lot of these, so
Yeah, you've been part of a lot of it. That's what's
yeah.
neat. What I had a list of stuff. We definitely talked about driver. Actually, it's kind of another fun story in the driver relationship. So, uh, I used to call drivers gods. I told them they're gods, and I think I called us demigods. I don't even know if I knew what it meant, but I told them kind of my job was to set them up to do great things. And we spoke about how we talk to each driver. And at some point, I had a driver come to me, and he's like, "I don't want to be a god." He's like, or I don't want all this pressure on me. I don't like when you say those things." I'm like, "Oh man, it's out of respect more than anything else for what they do." And this is a personal thing I came up with. It's kind of I like watching bicycling, bike racing, Tour de France. And if anybody knows, it's the lead out man for the sprinter in the bikes. So it's Renshaw, Cavendish, or what we came up to. So we as engineers, we're the lead out man. We put you in the position to do great things. Ultimately, you're the only one that can get us across the finish line. Kind of like that. We also talk about being the caddy and the golfer, stuff like that. So, ironically, when I look through my notes, a lot of it is talking about me kind of working with drivers and kind of those relationship side of things. But the Cavendish Renshaw one was a big deal, and I'm just going to throw this in here. I'm not a fan of many, I don't care about movie stars or drivers. Mark Cavendish is my hero, and I met him on the grid of Le Mans this year out of just pure coincidence, and it was just the coolest moment ever. Yeah, so that said, some other stuff was, I think Dr. F used to say, we used to call them driver robots as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So kind of as an engineer, when we're doing a car setup, as I mentioned, every driver's unique, and that's really the challenge of what I would rather have is a driver that does the exact same thing every time, and two of them that do the exact same thing. So we have different styles of driving. And Ricky and Jordan, who are brothers, and they were both raised by the same famous race car driver, Wayne. One of them likes to be really aggressive under braking, which gives him a front that he can feel, and he steers, and he kind of uses braking to make the car work. In stark contrast, his brother decides to, instead of braking deep, he's just going to turn the steering wheel, see what happens, and manage everything that goes on at the back of the car. So they're very polar opposite. So we definitely have to. A lot of the problem solving is how to make them both happy, and that's part of the magic of endurance racing is to have success. The two pairing. We either build a car around one and hopefully he's the finishing driver and the other guy has to survive, or we say if a race is long enough, we'll build a car that's kind of the balance of both of them, and they can both move that car forward. Where you look to Formula One and IndyCar and stuff like that, building a car around a single driver is a much simpler exercise. However, you look to Formula One a little bit and you can see big disparities across the team, the Verstappens versus his teammates. And that's an example where this car has really been built by the factory for that driver. And if you can't drive it his way, there's not enough adjustment. It's not really designed to work any other way. And that's often why you see a lot of disparity in the Formula One between the drivers. Doesn't mean one's better or one's worse. Mind you, Verstappen's pretty incredible. It just means that car is really centered around that kind of driving style. So in F1, they spend quite a bit of time trying to build driver robots. We need you to make this car work. It's proven to be able to do this. You need to work on your craft in order to execute and kind of get to that level. What's interesting for us right now is, we feel pretty comfortable working with two drivers and building race cars around them. However, tires are this new evolution that we're busy dealing with, and we're actually looking to bring on some tire experts that know how to deal with rubber, where the driving style isn't just the balance of the cars or the things they want the car to do. Suddenly, if they drive differently, the tire temperatures change and the tire grip level change based on their driving style. So now we have a whole different problem to deal with. So we're busy kind of working through that. I'm wishing even more so they could be driver robots. That said, we have some cool things in the car we've added now to turn them into driver robots. There's things like auto coast and so forth, where they push a button and the car kind of does the braking for them, or kind of cues them when to brake and cues them how to drive all in the same manner. So we're kind of heading in that direction. One of the notes I did have is, as an engineer, we get asked a lot about AI and how we integrate that into our program, and it's getting evolved very quickly, and I think it's not going to be able to replace that driver engineer relationship, which is kind of the firm thing I'm sticking to. It's definitely processing a lot of data, but it can't interpret what the driver's saying, and it would take a lot of time, especially because the drivers all use different verbiage. They're not even consistent. They're showing things with their hands. So AI is really doing a relatively small job now, which is just processing mass data and presenting it to us in a different way. Even on race strategy side, we've had a lot of AI companies try to get involved with that. And the big challenge what we race against is we're prototypes and there's GT cars, and every GT car has different caliber drivers. Again, platinums and bronzes could just be some rich guy that has a ton of money and is really slow. So when AI starts to get involved in strategy, it doesn't really know who's driving that car. Honestly, in the communication with the drivers when we're racing, they ask me who's ahead. And if I say a name, they know that guy is risky or slow or dangerous, So at some point, AI is kind of tiptoeing into the information processing. But I think as long as the human element of motorsports, it's going to have a hard time kind of taking a lot of the roles away from engineers.
Awesome. Brian, I did have a question come in
Yeah.
for you if you want to field that. So this came from Sophie. It was a follow-up on the question regarding Dallara letting teams have free reign with the seat and adjustability of steering components. She wants to know, are there any regulations given by IMSA you have to follow to maintain driver safety during crashes? So does there have to be sort of orientation, equipment in the car, if you may want to just comment on that?
Yep. And so that's actually where the head positioning started from. So there's a vertical head positioning, and I think the range can be 20 millimeters. So it can only be so high within that 20 millimeter window. And then there's four aft, so positioning to the rear headrest as well as the side pieces that surround them. And I think that's only 10 millimeters. I think it can be up to 50, but you're only allowed to add support up to 10. And that was a question that was brought up by the drivers where they said they're almost arguing it's a safety concern if I'm 50 millimeters away. And I believe, and Dr. F might know that actually in F1 the testing has been done, and that gap in a rear collision is not big enough that the forces of the head on the safety paddock are any concern. So, while my driver tried to leverage safety as a way to just help him be more comfortable in the car, ultimately some pretty incredible testing had been done.
And
Something that
it's
is interesting that is relevant right now, the doctor told me about more than anything, is actually additions to the helmet.
mm,
Uh, so sadly, with drivers, I don't know whether it's part of all this evolving in the last decade, but they used to just run helmets. Well, now they'll have ducts attached to the top of the helmet to blow air in. They'll have drink tubes connected to the side of the helmet, ducts to the front. There's just things bolted on this helmet or glued all over the place with zero regulation at this point in time. I think we are both concerned that regulation is about to come down without regard for the safety value these devices on the helmet do bring to the driver, kind of in these hot cockpits, hot environments. So I think that's going to be probably, better than me, going to be a hot topic coming up pretty soon that we're pretty stressed about.
good use of the term hot, by the way, because a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
them deal
sorry.
with, no, I love it, with hydration, ventilation, and yeah, I think, we can, we're recording this, so I should probably be careful what I say.
Yeah,
But no, I think it's interesting in that, it's one of those deals where there's a safety and performance angle to these attachments, right? And it almost goes back to the fact of let's have a bigger perspective of what could actually cause the problem in the event of a crash. And maybe having these additions will actually reduce
yeah,
a crash and keep a driver hydrated and cool. So no, absolutely. And I think I might give you a little bit of an insight. I think things might be okay. I
yeah,
think there some cooler heads have prevailed a
yeah,
bit in how
nice.
we do things. So, Sophie, I didn't mean to pirate your question. Did I answer it? Was that correct?
Yes, that was correct.
Awesome,
Thanks.
awesome, awesome. Brian, we are getting close to time. I've enjoyed this, but please feel free to continue with closing thoughts, and then maybe we'll save time for just a couple more questions if you're okay with that.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything else. That was kind of pretty much everything I had to share. I'm impressed that I filled an hour. That was
You
that
did
was a lot of
great. No,
fun.
this was
Yeah.
fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to shut up and maybe we got time for maybe two or three questions. I know Brian has to get on a flight, so I do want to be mindful of that.
Yeah, I'm good for a couple minutes.
Cool. So, Brian, I'm cursed. Every time I open for questions, I wait and I start talking and someone chimes in. So, we're going to see who chimes in here in a second. So, I might throw you a question because
Yeah,
we
no
know each
problem.
other and we interact and we do this stuff. You know, you talked a little bit about wanting driver robots, wanting them to kind of do things repeatability and get there. What do you think has been one of the best advancements you've seen kind of in the driver science world that has helped gotten to that? So you've seen a lot of us come around, we have our little products, we do things, we try and test things. What thing do you think has been the most beneficial to help keep drivers preventing fatigue in the car, just from your engineering perspective?
Yeah, well, I think preventing fatigue in the car is kind of the big thing. Like you didn't make a driver robot, but and maybe I speak on the strategy side. What we made, you made, they made themselves, was the ability that we knew we could rely on them for extended periods of time. So like we had in the middle of summer, Rick and Philippe doing a 3-hour stint in a very hot cockpit at some point in time with no issue. We knew they'd be safe. We knew they could perform. We knew they'd be mentally strong for that. And honestly, they had confidence in their ability to do it as well. And I think that was like you hear me speaking a lot about kind of race strategy, race craft. Like personally, that's been the biggest advancement. We know it basically become robots. I can put in the tool as I want strategically. I know it's taken us a while to get there. believe in historically in Petit, there'd be some discussions about thing and how we process information and kind of judgment calls. But we just watch them, like honestly on their own end, we see their confidence in their prep work at a time. They know what they can do, and they're pushing for these decisions instead of being more wishy-washy about I don't know if I could do it. Um, so yeah, I think it's kind of on their prep work, knowing that they can do true endurance racing. And just for everybody here, a maximum stint is 4 hours, and we have had drivers run 4 hours. And I apologize, I don't remember heart rate numbers, and Dr. F can give the. It's insane the heart rates they run at for 4 hours straight. Like it's if somebody were to do it in any other athletic endeavor, I don't even know if it's possible kind of thing. And just on my side, like they are risking their lives. We're doing, 200 miles an hour in a race car, and you're inches beside another race car going that speed, and the failure modes are just insane, and they're able to do this, keep the awareness and so forth. So it's kind of we've definitely built robots and their ability to execute a race, which is really awesome.
You know, I'll chime in because you mentioned Watkins Glen and the 3 hour stints with Philippe. And so, give you some background to our audience. Watkins Glen was particularly hot this year. And at the same time, I would say, you mentioned that you like to surround yourself by very intelligent people and learn things from people. And I will say this, one of the best things I learned from Brian listening to him on the radio is he will tell a driver, this is your job. You will use that phrase, your job is to do this. And I've actually stolen that from you. I'm sorry, but that's what I tell my students. Sometimes there's a lot of things going on, you get distracted. I'll say, for right now, this is your job to do
Yeah.
this. And I was on the opposite side of Brian saying, this is your job at Watkins Glen when he came to me and said, we're going to put Philippe in the car for a 3 hour stint. Um, let's keep him cool. What can we do? Can basically take care of it
Get
and
to work.
get to work. And,
Yeah.
those of you that know me know that I'm very obsessed with hydration and core temperature. And I had a threshold in mind of if we could do these things, get his core temperature down to this number, he was going to be good for 3.5 hours. And, I didn't tell you this part, was that I was tracking his core temperature leading up to getting in the car. And I knew that when that number hit, he was going to
He
be
was
good to
good.
go. He was
Oh, that
good.
is cool.
And
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
I have a picture of the graph for you. I need to send you, but that was a special moment for me when the data came together like that. But also, you guys got second and third at Watkins Glen, which was an accomplishment to do that getting that season. So yeah, I'm glad you shared that story. That was a memorable one for me, and I should send you that data because it was quite special that
Yeah,
the
cool.
math actually mathed when that happened. Um, and I apologize, we've gone over. I do not want to be the last one to ask a question. So, do we have any other questions? I'll take those. And if not, I will simply say, Brian, thank you so much for this. I know you are incredibly busy. Uh, I'm always amazed at how busy you actually are, and
Yeah.
very grateful for any minute I get of you when we get a chance. This has been fantastic. It's definitely been one of the top ones to hear this and share this. I am so grateful for all you've done for driver science over the years and your friendship. I think I will still call you a world-renowned engineer, even if you will not call yourself that.
Yeah.
We wish you the best of luck at the Daytona test. I hope it goes well. And I will see you in Coda in about a month
Yep.
to have a little bit more fun. So, with that, safe travels. Thank you again. And everyone, it's been an absolute pleasure hosting this mentoring networking session for you for 3 years. There's always been a highlight of mine. I might still join in and see it, but we're going to turn it over to the great Dr. Reed for next year and take it from there. So, thank you again, Brian. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thank you very
Bye bye.
much.
Thank you, Ryan.